Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to Hacker Associate. You're watching the Hacker Show. In this section, we're going to learn about Docker containers. But here I'm going to teach you Rosetta for Docker. So let's understand what exactly our topic for today. So why your Docker containers are slow on Mac, Apple M1 or M2 or basically Apple Silicon Macs, and the one setting that fixes it. So I created the proper PDF. I will guide you what one setting you need to update in your Docker things, and you can run all Intel application directly inside Apple Silicon Macs. Let's see how to do that particular part. So for example, let's see if I go to this particular PDF, we'll understand what is Rosetta and Docker for Apple Silicon. So everything DevOps engineer and security practitioner need to know about running AMD64 container on ARM64 hardware faster, smarter, and without the QEMU tax. So what do you mean by that, right? So this is about my international live hacking conferences. Okay, like I am running the show, okay, specifically in Dubai, Malaysia, Singapore. You can join that particular show every year, okay, like how to hack the technology just in 20 minutes. This is our community, Hacker Associate. You can find us on LinkedIn. We already have 120K plus people join our community. Now, when I simple go and show you here, this is our Docker desktop, right? This is our Docker desktop. So what do you mean by that? So in this particular case, if you see, in my case, I'm running lot of container. You can see here, right? These are the container. And if you see in this particular part, you will see here I have AMD64 and again AMD64. We have these two container I'm running specifically on Apple Silicon Macs. So this way you can run this AMD64 or we can say X64 x86 application directly inside Apple Silicon. Or you can also add minus platform option when you run the command. I'll going to guide you how to do that. So let's understand, okay, go to the particular PDF. So you can see there are two problems, right? So what are the two problems? So you always call, okay, like two word, one machine. So we know that one word, okay, if you're using Apple Macintosh system like the Apple Silicon, so it's called ARM64 Apple Silicon. Second is like Intel word, okay, if you're running Windows machine or Linux machine, right? In that case, particular case, we have a AMD64 x86 64 emulation. So Apple Silicon M1, M2, M3, M4 run on ARM64 architecture. You already know about it. But the vast majority of Docker images, especially the legacy ones, were compiled for AMD64 x86 64 Intel. That is the problem, right? So we need to fix the translation gap in this case. So without a translation layer, AMD64 containers simply refuse to run or crash silently. This is where the emulation becomes essential. So what Rosetta 2 actually does in the Docker, so one is basically the translator, QEMU default fallback, Rosetta 2 via Docker settings. So how to enable that option? Simple, you can go here to the Docker and click on the setting option. And if you go a little bit downside, you will see this option called use Rosetta for x86-64, AMD64 emulation on Apple Silicon. So turn on Rosetta to accelerate x86-64, AMD64 binary emulation on Apple Silicon. You must have the Apple virtualization framework enabled, right? If you don't know how to set up a Rosetta, the link is in the description. You can check it, like how to set up a Rosetta specifically for Apple Silicon Macs. So just in 5 minutes, okay, you can set up, okay, Rosetta, and you can also run Ghidra, and you can also run, okay, reverse engineering tool very easily, and you can perform all your analysis, okay, using the Apple Silicon Macs. So when you use a QEMU, it is a slower, full software emulation, but Rosetta 2 is much faster, hardware assisted. Mechanism, pure software, no hardware assist in the case of QEMU. But when you use Rosetta, we have an Apple virtualization framework is there. Compatibility, we have QEMU, high, broad x86 support. And in the case of Rosetta 2, we have a high for most x86 workload. So Rosetta 2 work inside the lightweight Linux VM that Docker desktop already spin up. Apple virtualization framework handle the heavy lifting at the hardware level. So under the hood, how does setting work? So as you know that, okay, we are going to use Rosetta, swap to the Rosetta, launch VM and translate via IOFS things, right? So when you enable use Rosetta for x86 from this option, you can see clearly, right? So what will happen? So this virtualization, okay, we call this the word IOFS mount is the key. It provides a high performance file sharing interface between the Mac OS and the Linux VM, enabling Rosetta translation to operate with minimal overhead. And this is the fundamentally different from QEMU full stack software emulation. So why enable Rosetta? Now you got an idea, like one is dramatically faster build, better compatibility and legacy tool support. That is the main part. Okay, we are using Rosetta or we are enabling this option only for one particular thing is legacy tool support. And when it matter most, security tooling, right? So when we need, so suppose, okay, like I want to test some vulnerability and I'm using Apple Silicon, I don't have, okay, like other laptop or something, other machines. In that case, okay, if this option is enabled, I can practice everything under the Mac system. So for security practitioner, the impact of Rosetta is felt immediately. A significant portion of the offensive and defensive security ecosystem is still lack native ARM64 Docker images. So legacy pen testing tool like older Kali Linux tool, exploit framework, legacy scanner often ship AMD64 only Docker images. And Rosetta make this usable without recompiling. CTF challenges container, right? So you will see, okay, Docker is a future, by the way. Even if you're doing a cloud pen testing or, okay, like in web application penetration testing, most of the tools nowadays available under Docker. The best example is MobSF, Mobile Security Framework, right? It is also available right now in Docker. So every tool, you can check it, Bloodhound. It is also like Docker containers are available, right? So we are using a Docker in our day-to-day life. So it's very important, okay, to understand these things properly and you can quickly spin up the container and you can practice it very fastly. And third, okay, we have a very big, okay, like images available, okay, under Docker Hub, AMD64 pulls. So pulling images, okay, like with minus platform Linux, AMD64 from a Docker Hub for testing or replication is dramatically smoother under Rosetta emulation. So how to enable it? One setting, big impact, as we know that we can enable, okay, using this setting general. After that, you still need to request AMD64 explicitly. You can also run, okay, this command minus platform. You specify the platform, okay, and the image which you want to pull, right? Without the platform, Docker will resolve to ARM64 if a multi-architecture manifest exists in that particular case. So that's all for this particular section. And if you are for more information, you can always check Hacker Associate application. We have launched many programs like Offensive AI. We also have a Covert Certified Offensive Red Teaming Operator, malware analysis, web application, pen testing using AI, reverse engineering using AI, and a lot of other things we have launched. So don't forget to check our program and everything. I hope this video is informative for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next hacking episode. Thank you. Great day.